and I'm mortified to say I enjoyed every single mouthful. Hi, I'm Michelle, the Irritable Vegan. I'm here to share my vegan low FODMAP story and hopefully take some of the BS out of IBS. So in true fashion, I've got a real FODMAP fail to share with you today. You know that I'm full disclosure. I like you to know the highs and the lows of this FODMAP journey that I'm on. So I'm really hoping that by sharing this, somebody somewhere out there can avoid making the same mistake as me and hopefully realise that even if we can't always do everything 100% all of the time, it's still worth giving it a go. Here we go. So as you may or may not be aware, I've been following a low FODMAP elimination diet for the last 8 weeks. I've been doing really well on it. I've followed it as strictly as I possibly can, as strictly as is humanly possible. And I've now moved into the elimination phase. I've so far done one fructan elimination challenge with wheat, and I chose to begin that with bread, and that went really well. I waited at least 3 days in between doing that before I started another challenge, and I was due to start a second fructan challenge today, but unfortunately I'm not going to be able to do that because of a huge mistake I made last night, and here's what happened. So basically, I made a low FODMAP vegan shepherd's pie, absolutely delicious. And for my husband and son, I made a non-vegan, non-low FODMAP, in fact incredibly high FODMAP shepherd's pie for them. And last night we had leftovers, and I left it up to my husband. He was reheating the leftovers for us. I'm not pointing any fingers, but anyway, I have no idea how it happened, but we sat down to eat. I was tucking in and I got 3/4 of the way through, 3/4 of the way through my plate before realising I was actually chewing on a big piece of red onion. And I kind of stopped and looked and kind of started picking through. And I'm looking for lentils at this point because my shepherd's pie was a lentil shepherd's pie, and I'm not seeing anything that looks like a lentil. At this point my husband's stopped eating and has turned to me thinking, what is she doing? So he's kind of fork midway thinking, what's happening? My stomach is starting to heave. My face must have gone drip white. My husband took one look at me and was like, what on earth is wrong? And I realised I'd got 3/4 of the way through his plate of shepherd's pie. So his shepherd's pie was made using Quorn mince, which obviously is not as bad as using meat mince, but it's still not good. Obviously Quorn uses rehydrated egg powder, so it's not vegan. So I've managed to lose my veganity after almost 3 years of not eating any meat, dairy, eggs, anything. It was also made with red onion, with leek, with garlic, and with gravy granules that contained both onion and garlic seasoning. And I was horrified. Firstly, I was horrified at the fact that up to that point I'd enjoyed every single mouthful. I was mortified that I'd managed to get 3/4 of the way through the plate and not realised what I was eating. This then made me realise how disconnected I'd actually been from what I was eating. How I must have just been literally shoveling it in with no thought to what was on my plate, no thought to what was going in my mouth, just with complete mindlessness, which is something that I've tried really hard to get away from during this 8-week FODMAP elimination, and there I was just shoveling this in like there was no tomorrow, literally to the point where I didn't even realise what I was eating. So that's one big lesson that's come out of it. Obviously my husband looked at me in horror, realising what had happened. He's now halfway through his plate and he hasn't realised that he's eating lentils, which by the way he doesn't like. So he's got halfway through his plate. I then just literally throw my fork down. That's it, I'm done. Can't eat anymore. Don't want to eat anything else. Just my stomach started heaving. And I think that was much more of a psychological reaction rather than a physical reaction to the food, as in a FODMAP reaction. I think it was literally, for me, it was psychological that I realised I'd eaten something that wasn't vegan. I realised I'd eaten something that was really incredibly high FODMAP, and it was just like a reaction. I wasn't sick, but I felt extremely nauseous, and I literally felt a weight in my sternum here, almost like a pressure, as if I could feel the food sitting there and it wasn't going to go any further. Which is not a nice feeling, it's really not. You know, it's not a pleasant sensation at all. So here I am, my plate is virtually finished. My poor husband is halfway through his plate, wondering what on earth is happening. And I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know, should I go and make myself sick to bring it out? What do I do? So my husband was like, it's done, it's finished, it's over, there's nothing you can do, just don't think about it. And of course, the second anybody says don't think about it, you're like, don't think about it. So for the rest of the night, I was just incredibly, just literally kind of sitting with myself, kind of going over in my head all the things that went wrong to that point to make that even a possibility. And it's embarrassing and I feel awful, but I do think it was really important to share it with you, because FODMAP elimination is hard. It's really, really hard, and I really do think that a lot of people either never attempt it or attempt it for a very short space of time and feel like they can't continue with it. You know, they feel very isolated. There isn't a lot of people, certainly that I know, there isn't a lot of people you're likely to know that are following a vegan diet, let alone a vegan low FODMAP diet. So, you know, it can be very isolating, it can be incredibly difficult, and I just think it's worth knowing that there are people out there that are doing it, there are people out there to support you, there are people out there that are cheering you on and want you to do the best possible, the best things possible for yourself, for your health, for your symptoms. And I think it's really important to know that these mistakes hopefully won't happen too frequently. It's the first time it's ever happened to me in like 3 years of being vegan. So hopefully it won't happen again. But, you know, we are not perfect beings, you know, we're not perfect creatures, and we just need to do the absolute best we can do. And for me, at that point, that really could have made me just give up on the whole thing and think, I've just completely destroyed all the hard work I've done over the past 8 weeks. But I thought, no, just get it together, just all is not lost. It's a minor setback because, one, I wanted to begin a second reintroduction challenge today, and obviously I'm not going to do that now because I need to know that the symptoms I'm having are coming from the elimination challenge I'm on rather than from the mistake I made last night. So I've definitely decided that for the next at least 3 days or so, I'm not going to bring any other kind of reintroduction challenge into it. I'm just going to sit with what I've done, with what I've eaten, and just see how that affects me. The biggest thing to come out of it is the mindfulness, which I know is, it's incredibly hard in this day and age. I was hungry, I was tired, we just worked out. It was quite late for me to eat anyway. I usually prefer to eat about 7 o'clock, and it was getting on for past 8 o'clock. So I was kind of getting #hangry anyway. So all of these things led to the fact that I just wanted to get this food in as quickly as possible. And I think that's been a big lesson, is really just to be much more mindful of what's on my plate, of what's going into my mouth, of what I'm chewing, of what I'm eating, the flavours, the sensations. Because really, if I'd have been sat at the table at 6 or 7 o'clock last night with the plate in front of me, if I'd have been sat at 7 o'clock last night with the plate in front of me, you know, ready to eat, mindful of what was on my plate, I would have known immediately that that was not my plate of food. And if I didn't know, literally just by looking at my plate, the second that item went in my mouth, I would have realised. And I think that's been the biggest lesson really to come out of all this. And I hope that that's a lesson that you might be able to take away from this, because it really is so important to be mindful of what we're putting in our bodies, to be mindful of our eating, our environment. It's not just what you eat, it is how you eat. And especially for IBS sufferers, stress and anxiety and tension and all those kind of things play a huge part in your symptoms. So you really need to make sure that you are at your most relaxed, your body is ready to receive food, that you're mindful of the food that you're receiving, of what you're eating. And I think for me that's going to be a huge takeaway from all of this. I have to look for the silver lining in this, because I could literally just cry. So I really need to look for the silver lining and to kind of move forward now, and just see how things progress from here on in. So I will keep you updated on exactly how the symptoms progress from this. Surprisingly, I did not have an immediate reaction, or a reaction as severe as I would have expected. I had very mild, almost like an indigestion sensation. I did belch. I was belching quite a lot, which for me is usually an immediate indicator that I've eaten something that wasn't quite right. So I was a little bit belchy, I was a little bit windy. I did have this feeling of heaviness and pressure here, almost like an indigestion type feeling, which lasted all night. I went to sleep with it and I woke up with it again this morning. I have had a bowel movement this morning. Trigger warning, I'm going to talk about bowels now, which wasn't as disastrous as I would have expected. There was a lot of volume, but it wasn't as terrible as I imagined it was going to be. And I've had a bit of a gurgly, windy, don't quite feel right in my belly, but can't quite put my finger on exactly what's wrong. And some of that could be the fact that I know exactly what's wrong. Some of it could be that I'm preempting a reaction, but mainly I'm just trying as best I can just to sit with what I've done and just to see what comes up for me. So for the rest of the day I am keeping it really quite strictly low FODMAP. I'm going to stick to very simple meals for the rest of the day, very low FODMAP, and obviously vegan, and I'll just see how it progresses from here on for the rest of the day, and possibly over the next few days, because it, you know, there may be like a delayed reaction. I'm not quite sure, but so for today I'm just going to see how I go. I'll keep you updated as to exactly how it affected me, and then I'm going to leave it another few days at least before I start another reintroduction challenge, which I think by then I should be fully aware of what's happened and any symptoms should have cleared up, and I think I should be on my way then to bringing in another challenge. Please leave any comments or questions below. I'd love to hear from you. How are you doing? How's your FODMAP elimination going? Have you started any reintroduction challenges? Just leave it all in the comments below and we'll continue the conversation. I'll speak to you soon. Thanks for watching.